Christianity can't accept that because they don't understand that what Jesus is trying to say is that if we find the Christ consciousness within us and start thinking with the mind of Christ, then this planet Earth gradually turns into the planet heaven, because heaven doesn't come by way of a location. Heaven comes by way of a consciousness. In other words, heaven comes by way of a change of mind. If everybody starts thinking like Christ, this planet becomes heaven. It's just that simple. There's no big deal. It's just that simple. If you begin to think as Christ, the planet Earth becomes the planet heaven. It even starts right in your house. And Jesus says you do that by entering in within yourself, going to the upper room and to the right hemisphere, sitting at the right hand of the Father, where then he meets you and feeds you the hidden manna. That's the way this is all psychology. Jesus' last name was not Christ. Christ is a title. And basically, its word origin is Christus, Christos, and it was considered an ideal truth that comes as a divine manifestation of God to destroy incarnate error. Incarnate error is the error of the carnal mind.
Well, let's continue listening to what Bill says, because he's going to articulate this a little bit more. And I'm not necessarily saying that he's entirely wrong. And when you listen to people at church, like your pastor, you're getting about 1/10 of what the Bible really is saying. Very little of what they're saying is true. They don't know the spiritual at all. And they do not understand what they're teaching. Therefore, they don't know why they're supposed to be spiritual. They know that Jesus said, cleanse the inside of the cup, not the outside. So they say, oh, forget the outside. We're just going to cleanse the inside. That's all it's about, is the inside. Well, that'd be partly okay if they even knew what their inside was. They even knew it meant love and mind and spirit. They even knew what the word spirit meant. Or the fact that humans are body, soul, and spirit. That we have 3 parts. And that we've got to be preserved blameless in body, soul, and spirit in his kingdom. And so entering in is the mind, the thoughts that enter into a higher place. And it isn't by meditation and forcing your brain, but it's simply by letting go of fears and hate and living a simple life and literally stop worrying about physical things and understand that the divine takes care of itself. And the outer is going to manifest naturally, automatically, and you're going to have everything you need when you finally get the inside of the cup cleansed. So it's like the way that the New Age sometimes, I'm not saying that all people who participate in the aspect of the New Age movement are necessarily all wrong. They got the right idea a lot of times. But they concentrate on things like the word meditation. We don't even know what that means. What the fiddly diddly does that mean? I mean, at least I know what people mean when they say go pray. Well, in their mind, that means they go talk to some, go talk into the air and picture some bearded man in your mind, and like you're up in a court and you're trying to present your case before the Lord and you're crying and begging and pleading, please, Lord, help me. At least I know what they're talking about. Even though I know it's wrong, I know what they're talking about. But when people say go meditate, the best most people can figure is that they mean go into a corner, cross your legs, sit up straight and go, hold your hands in a certain way, like maybe use the little 666 sign on each end, right? Or make a little upside down pyramid, right? Or some kind of an upside down something. What are they doing? You say, oh, they know some secrets. The Lord doesn't keep us in the dark and flash signs at his disciples and keep everything secret and run around running the government, some clandestine operation with hoochie girls on his lap, right? And years later, tales of misconduct and maybe drugging young women and having sex with them, giving them positions of authority. Do you think this is good? Why are you following these people and voting for them? All of these, you better run. You better get out of Babylon. You better run for your lives, man. Get into the wilderness. This is getting dangerous. These evil, wicked people have a plot to take over the world, and they're trying to deceive your mind about what the truth is. And there are a lot of these individuals running around trying to figure it out that are sincere and good people, and that are people that we should listen to, like Bill Donahue. But we've got to add to what he was saying, because you can't just live in the city and put a white shirt on and a tie and teach these things. Stop with all the mumbo jumbo and the worldly lifestyle. So this is what we're going to presenting the truth, but not really doing the truth. This is what we got to talk about. Is it sitting in a corner going or is there something else? Do you literally got to get out of the world and touch not the unclean thing? Do you literally got to get out of Babylon? Do you got to go into the woods and live in nature? Maybe that's the key. Because sitting in a corner ain't going to do it. You see, that's insanity. It was financed by the Rothschilds to deceive your mind. Nirvana is 3 trillion years. It's the whole yugas and ages of the divine plan of deity. And you're not going to reach nirvana sitting in a corner. What we're trying to reach at this level is to learn how to love our brother and to be calm and to go back to that place where we have no anxiety and we're not bound under some law and in bondage and deceived. We've got to wake up and realize the truth. And the truth is that the world is perfect and you're already perfect. Just calm down, relax, sing a song. Love one another. Care for one another. Go out in the real world. It's already there. The field is ripe already for harvest, friends. The kingdom doesn't need to be created. The blueprint was already created in the beginning. We just have to believe and receive it and get out of this lying, deceptive world that's keeping us in bondage. The law of Moses and government and rules and ceremonies and thinking only about the outer cup. Well, they say they're trying to reach nirvana. Okay, what does that mean? Nirvana. Do they know that nirvana is a Hindu word that they are not translating for you? Okay, everybody knows what Brahma means. I mean, a lot of people know what Brahma means. The day of Brahma is 1 billion years. Nirvana is absolute enlightenment, you say. But what does that mean? Effort on your part trying to become enlightened? No. It means you already are. You are the enlightenment. Time and space is irrelevant. But in the world of time and space, this physical classroom, this adventure that we're on, has been established by somebody. And that's something we need to talk about. Who made up all this stuff? You don't believe in Jesus, but you believe in the plan. Who made up the plan? Like, we're all in heaven before we came into this world. Who was there? You were there. I was there. Everybody was there. But who was in charge? Oh, nobody. It was like chaos. No, there was a plan. Who made the plan? Well, there aren't no real people involved, Dave. Jesus is just a figment of your imagination. Why is he our elder brother, the firstborn among many brethren? Why do you throw out all these verses, Josh, and just stick to these narrow little thoughts that suit your mindset, what you're trying to get across? I think you've gotten into some place of pride where you can't be wrong, and you're trying to insist that only look at this verse. The kingdom is within you. Forget the fact that the word kingdom there is not the word kingdom. It's the word basilia. We use the word to this day. The basilia is a hall, a building where the legislature, the people in charge, meets to discuss the business of the kingdom. So imagine this. You've got a temple, which represents the universe. The outer court's the material part. You need the walls, right? But you go through the first gate and there's another wall. What is this partition? Remember yesterday we said that the first gate is the way, right? You got to get on the path, go through the gate. Then you get to the truth. So you need to learn stuff in that first material realm. And then you get to the next gate into the truth. You have gnosis, understanding. And then you light these candles in the hallway and get down to the inner sanctuary, which is that source, the mind, the higher consciousness. And that's what we're trying to do. And then the entire body will be full of light. When you light those candles, your entire body, meaning all the way out to the outer court, the whole physical realm is lit up and in harmony with mind. Oh, but let's talk about the pineal gland and the, the functions of some serum that's in your spinal fluid or something. No, listen, maybe all that's going on in your little physical body. But what you're supposed to be understanding is that the candles that are lit, or the energies, is love and goodness and wisdom and truth. You got to have enlightenment, love. You've got to understand that your conscious mind is the devil and it's lying to you. Don't be deceived. You're in charge. Well, I say your higher consciousness can be in charge, but you're not obeying your higher consciousness, the Lord. You're obeying some ignorant fool, your lower conscious mind, full of fear and lust and hate. Right? You light wisdom. You light that candle that's wisdom, which is knowledge, which is kindness and self-control. You learn those things and light those candles. You don't have any more problem being deceived by your lower lustful, ignorant, foolish nature. The goal isn't to tell people that we've got to cleanse our pineal gland. The goal, even if that is true, even if the pineal gland does get calcified and we can't dream right or whatever, but in reality, what we're trying to do is develop character and have dominion over these beasts, or the animalistic nature, the physical world, and bring it into subjection, because the divine man has dominion over the garden and over all the animals and over their own bodies. You see. But in the sanctuary is the Shekinah glory. That's the power and the glory, the presence of the divine. We've got to get in through the curtain, which is your flesh, beyond the curtain, beyond the carnal mind, so that we can take care of the animals, to love that physical, beautiful paradise. We're the caretaker of the paradise. You see, we're in charge. But who is we? The higher consciousness. That lower consciousness, that animal running wild out there, don't get scared. It's part of the world that you're in charge of, and you need to have dominion over it, and you have to learn how to do that through patience and love and wisdom. Don't be afraid of the devil. You know, that beast. He's got two horns. He's snorting. He's coming. Ho, ho, ho. No, put a bit in his mouth and plow your field. Right? We're in charge. Have dominion over your own carnal, bestial nature. Tame it. Domesticate the kingdom. And bring it under control. Clear the weeds. And trim the branches. Prune your orchard. And let's get this wild growth tamed and under control, and get rid of some of the things we don't want in our garden. If you let the earth lie by itself without a human to trim the trees and prune all the branches and get rid of some of the weeds and accentuate roses and beautiful flowers and talk to the animals and love everybody and bring it under control, it becomes a wild, they say it goes back to seed. It just goes to bramble and thorns. You got to clear out the bramble and the thorns and make a garden. That's the way it was designed. Paradise is already here. The only thing missing is you, the divine human, Adam, who was supposed to have dominion over the garden. You remember Jesus said, you don't get food from thorns or thistles. So what does he mean? Thorns and thistles were created by the devil. Oh, no. The devil don't make nothing. The devil is that wild nature that is part of paradise, but it's just missing the human to take control, the higher consciousness, to have dominion. So the dog is a great shepherd when you have a good relationship with the animals. The cow can plow your field, the chickens can produce eggs, and it becomes a perfect paradise as long as the higher consciousness is there. But what happened is that Adim, plural, male and female, made he them, they were one, they got split in half and cursed by some law and some chaos, and they got separated, the flesh and the spirit, right? Your physical world got abandoned by the higher spiritual, higher consciousness. But that's necessary at the beginning. The lower conscious mind's got to go out and learn. It's got to figure things out. They got to go into the bramble and partake of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, trial and error, and learn through experience that just getting angry at the animals doesn't work. You have the power, but you've got to learn how to love. Start off, you're angry and frustrated, and everything's in a mess. You climb a hill, it's hard. You've got to walk all up that mountain. It's a lot of trouble. It hurts your legs. You got to build muscle. It takes time. But when you get to the top, see, that's the whole adventure. The Lord didn't just give us paradise, voila, and all the animals were just running around doing everything perfect. And no, we were given the job to be the caretaker, to bring it under control, and to learn and have the adventure, create our own environment the way we like, build the house the way we want, by a beautiful stream. And so, yeah, everything's provided for us. Just voila, it's magic. When we realize we don't have to be afraid or frustrated, we just calmly walk over to that bull and put our arms around it and love it. It already has within the DNA, within the plan, that bull was made to plow your field. That dog was made to shepherd the sheep and to be your friend. The cat was made to cuddle up in your lap and give you comfort. All the things that's in the world is provided for you, just waiting for you to get it. To grow up from a babe in Christ unto maturity and get our robes washed and clean and our house in order. That's all we got to do. And cast out the devil, right? The beast or the law or the hate or the vengeance. Cast it out. You were deceived by that lower conscious nature. Perhaps that lower conscious nature had to be for a while before we were yet children, tossed to and fro. We hadn't learned yet. That's all right. Because if we're not capable or ready to bring our kingdom in order, then the kingdom or your thoughts, because you haven't controlled your thoughts yet, they're in chaos. Well, they got to go back to some natural order, and that's that lower nature that is instinctual, behaves without knowledge. It's just instinctual knowledge, and it doesn't have any purpose yet. It's just there lying fallow until the farmer comes. See, the farmer hadn't got to the field yet. He hadn't got his farm going yet. He had to build a house, clear the land. And him and his wife, they're in there in the living room, sitting around a fire. They had to build a hearth. And they had to discuss the plan, figure out what they want to do, and get everything in order. Right? That's where you go into the sanctuary and you think it over and you decide what you want to do. The man and the wife, when they're one, can do all things. They will have dominion. But they got deceived by this youth. They had just started. And the conscious mind was deceived. Adam was not deceived, right? But Eve was thoroughly deceived, Paul says. What? She's a bad lady? No, your conscious mind is got to learn. That's the process. It's got to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And then she, the conscious mind, goes and learns and then gives also to her husband, and his eyes are also open. It's a process. We got to open our eyes. That's all. Don't worry about it. Just get those candles lit. Get your wisdom, the energies and vibrations raised. You'll get there. It's a process. Stop being afraid. And don't be deceived any longer by the brute beast and its fury and its vengeance. And you think, oh, who can do battle with the beast, right? No, you can. You can have victory over the beast and his image. I guarantee it. And so, inside the sanctuary, or in the living room or the kitchen, around the kitchen table, mom and dad's discussing it, and they're the rulers, and they're going to come up with a plan. See? So inside the world, or the outer court, the material, you go into the second court where you've got a plan, you got the truth, and then you can go into the life. Right? When you get in behind the veil, when you get rid of all the clutter and the lies and the chaos, and no more fear, and you realize that you are and that you can do anything. And then you have faith, and then you have determination and courage. And with those things, you bring the male and the female together, and then your two are one. And then your kingdom is in harmony. And you go out there and you make your paradise, your farm. And you live happily ever after. Ever after. See, that's how they translated that aeons of aeons in the stories, the Brothers Grimm and the fairy tales about the princess and the prince. They always live happily ever after. See, that was how in that language at that time they were translated for the aeons of forever. You see. They got all those animals in the zoology of the zodiac, that the characters and the nature of this universe, they got dominion now. So they are the ones in charge. They are the rulers. Yeah, the higher consciousness and the lower consciousness rule over the world. They got to come to an agreement. They got to become one. The eunuchs, the flamens, the Vestal virgins, the priesthood, the rulers, where they meet and discuss how the kingdom is going, the organization of the affairs of the kingdom. The kingdom itself, the territory, is not within you. The administration of the kingdom is within you. That's in heavenly places, and it's the mind that reigns over the physical. They have no idea what they're talking about. So what I'm saying here is that what Josh of the Sons of God Ministry is saying is completely incorrect. I think Bill knows and understands a little bit more than Josh. Because Bill's an older man, has done a little bit more thinking. And I respect Bill. I'm not critiquing him. I love him. He was a great teacher. But I'm adding to what he's saying and clarifying some things because you need to understand this. So let's listen to a little bit more what Bill says.
Now, I would ask those who claim to be followers of the Lord, born again, he says that you know the way. So what does he say is the way? Go to page 782. We'll do our Bible trip real quick. Matthew chapter 7 and verse 14. Matthew chapter 7, verse 14, what's the first thing Jesus says? Straight is the gate and narrow is the way, and few there are who find it. How true that is. Because when you have found it, you're not considered a Christian, you are considered a cult. Now, the way to what? The way to the kingdom. Okay, real quick, page 853. It says in Luke 17, verse 21, the kingdom is in you.
So, Bill is doing the same thing that Josh is doing and many others. Although we showed the clip at the start of this video that shows that Bill does understand essentially what I'm saying. It's just that it's too easy when you're teaching, and maybe you don't even know that word, the kingdoms within, means of basilia, and you're not quite getting that one point straight. And I'm not harping on Bill because I love Bill, but this is just something we've got to correct slightly. We've got to just tweak this a little bit, Bill. But you obviously have shown me from that clip that I just played, you've shown us all that your wisdom is profound, Bill, and I respect you highly. Please understand that. Just help me, Bill, to kind of expound a little deeper on this idea of the kingdom that is within us. And all of these teachers that are misunderstanding this idea of the kingdom within. And then this leads to this concept that we don't need to do anything. We don't need to get out of the cities. There's no formula that Jesus left us to have all things come. We don't have to do anything like that. He didn't say that. We can go ahead and live in the cities and vote for evil, wicked men to build up pharmaceutical Auschwitzes, drug factories to murder our children. Just keep sending our children to grammar school, teaching them this evil wickedness. We don't need to organize and help the orphans and the widows and restore the kingdom. There's no admirals and apostles and prophets. There's no methods. The physical kingdom don't matter. We're going to go off and be fairies and fly around into heaven, fly over the rainbow. I hear tell there's a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. See? And that means that it's not on earth. The pot of gold, it's somewhere out there beyond the clouds. One day we're going to sprout wings and fly up there, and that's where the real world is, but not for 1 billion years, Dave. Christ ain't coming back, you fool. This is all spiritual. And then this leads them to say stuff like, well, Christ isn't coming. His kingdom was never going to be established. He's just a figment of your imagination. The universe doesn't have individuals. Some are fathers and mothers. Some are children. We don't have an elder brother. We don't have a divine father. Come on, Dave. It's all spiritual. So it's not the kingdom that dwells within you. It's the source and the power of the kingdom. It's the Lord's kingdom that he's going to establish where the lamb shall lie down with the wolf. There'll be trees and mountains, and it will be a physical world. All that's not within you. The source of all that, the power and the rulership and the creator and the one who controls all of that is within you. And we got to go in spirit into the presence of that divine being within us to ask. And whatever we ask, we shall receive. But the things that we receive is all these other things. Seek ye first his kingdom, and all these other things will be added to you. What other things? Where to lay your head. The bird has a nest, the fox has a den. Son of man hath nowhere to lay his head. No, the Son of Man has plenty of places. But we've got to understand that the places that we lay our head is not us. We're the being within ourselves. We're the controllers. We're the divine spirit that is the governor that legislates and commands and makes the decisions about what we want in our kingdom. You see, and so modern governments, it's just like the Torah, the letter of the law. It's not the truth. Government isn't a bunch of people telling us what to do. Government is your mind. That's why the word government means to govern your mind, because their government is trying to control your mind because they know that your mind controls the world. They got to control your mind to control the world. When you learn that you're in control, you're the being, and your mind itself is controlling you, you're no longer deceived by the liar, the delusion, then all these other things will be added to you. I just wanted to point that out, that, it may seem like a innocent mistake, and everybody's making this particular mistake and telling everybody the kingdom's within, but they're not explaining to people the truth. So it doesn't mean anything to you because you're like, oh, the kingdom's within us. Well, what good does that do if you don't understand it's talking about your mind, and that the kingdom and all the things you want in life will manifest when you understand that you're in charge. So let's go on to see what Bill continues to say here.
But narrow is the way. Few there are who find out that the kingdom is inside of themselves. I'm not quoting a religious teacher or an evangelist. I'm quoting Jesus Christ or Jehoshua. How can you change it? I mean, a fraud, do you know what I mean? A lie becomes the truth, Albert. If it's perpetuated long enough, we all call him Jesus. Now, his name wasn't. His name could have been Phil, and we'd still be calling him Jesus. Because we can't deal with breaking from tradition. We'll never call him by his right name.
And I want to break in here, too, real quickly, just for a moment. I've said this so many different times, but we've got to get people to understand the truth and not just some crazy idea that people run around saying, oh, Easter is bad, we're just pagan. No, we're Christians. We celebrate Easter, the resurrection. Certainly we have been lied to. Jesus, his name, yes, there wasn't any J's, and true, the oos on the end wasn't pronounced. His name was Isa. It had nothing to do with Yahushua or Yeshua or any other thing like that. It wasn't a Hebrew name. We only have a Greek Bible. It's spelled right there, Isa. Now, the oos on the end is syntax. We don't pronounce that. I showed you the other day where AI admitted that when Jesus was on the earth, if his parents or somebody else was calling him, one of his disciples, hey, Jesus, they wouldn't have said Yeshua. They wouldn't have said Jesus. They would have said Isa. That's how you would have pronounced his name in Arabic, Hindu, and Greek. Let's go on.
Here's a guy who probably did more to help people in peace and love than any man that ever set foot on the face of the ground, and we wouldn't even call him by his right name. Think of it. Now, the narrow way is in yourself where you find the kingdom. Now, what does he say? He gives us instructions, page 847. Luke chapter 11, okay? 847, Luke chapter 11, verse 52. He's talking to the lawyers who are the Bible scholars of the day. You take away the key of knowledge because you don't enter within yourself. There's the key. Entering in. That's the key. You've got to enter in yourself. That's the key. So he says the way is narrow, the kingdom is in you, and the key is entering in yourself. That's the key. That opens the door. And I'll tell you something, if you use the key, there's every born-again Christian ready to tell you you're a Satanist, you're an occultist, you're going to open up your mind to devils because you obey the Lord Jesus Christ. Go to page 880. John chapter 14. John chapter 14, verse 20. At that day you shall know I am in my Father, you in me, and I in you. That's the way. Christ in you. Okay. I'm quoting Jesus Christ. So what do? He is the light of the world. What do? How do you become filled with this light? Here's a good one for the religious crowd. They love this one. Page 781. Matthew chapter 6, verse 22. The light of the body is the eye. If your eye be single, your whole body shall fill with light. Jesus Christ is saying you should practice the single eye. People get mad at us. Tell me something. Is it in the Bible? Yes, it is. Did Jesus say it? Yes, he did. Everybody that's in the East knows what the single eye is. It's the mystical point between the brows, between the eyebrows, the location of the pineal gland of the brain. He says, activate it and you'll fill with light. Okay? Well, what do? If you do that, you go into meditation, things happen. Right? You're at Matthew 6, chapter 22. Look at Matthew 6, chapter 25. Take no thought. Matthew 27. Why add thought? 6:27. 28. Why take thought? So forth. Take no thought. Okay. So here is the way. You practice the single eye, you take no thought, you understand that Jesus the Christ dwells in you, the key is entering in yourself, the way is very narrow, few of your friends are going to find it, they're probably going to make fun of you, but the kingdom of God is within you, and the key is entering in, practicing the single eye, and you'll find it. That's the way. I challenge anybody to show me in the world that Jesus Christ taught a different way. That's the way.
So what does it mean, let your eye be single? It's wonderful that people, talk about this as though they know and understand it, and it's so clear. It's obviously your pineal gland. No, it is not your pineal gland. In the Bible, the phrase, let your eye be single, which is Matthew 6:22, it's also in Luke chapter 11, the phrase describes a state of undivided devotion and a following after one specific thing, which is the spiritual part, and taking no thought about the physical part, because it's the spiritual part, your mind, that makes the physical part. So don't be divided. We already talked about this. As I said, the word single is haplos, and it literally means unfolded, one sheet, without folds. It's the opposite of diplos, or a double, or a folded twice. That's where we get the word duplicity. So, diplos is duplicity. The opposite of that is haplos, which is singleness of eye. Single in the sense that you're keeping your eye on the prize, Paul says, or you're keeping your mind with faith without doubting, without thinking about mundane fears and problems and what ifs. Just believing with faith. It's a concentration and focus on living the truth and living it properly and being in harmony with deity. So it means to be simple or uncompounded. Now, when it's applied to the eye, it describes the gaze that is focused on one thing rather than being distracted by something else. See, keep your mind on the prize and don't be distracted on anything else. If you're a runner, you run the race. You don't worry about the fact that your legs hurt, your feet hurt, because you're not going to win if you're thinking about other things. So, the eye is then focused completely and entirely on deity and his kingdom. It means that the heart isn't then divided between serving the Lord or pursuing worldly things. He speaks of that in the next verse. You can't serve mammon or money or material things and the Lord. You've got to serve the Lord and only the Lord. You can't be serving material things, thinking about it, obeying your doubts and fears and bowing down to these fears. Your lower ego is going to have all kinds of problems for every issue, but you cannot listen to it. That's the devil. Don't listen. Keep your mind on the prize. Now, it's great that people want to apply this verse to this modern New Age idea of the third eye, except that they didn't have any concept of a third eye. Those rabbis that Jesus was talking to didn't necessarily think in those terms. I'm not saying that there isn't a third eye, but what the third eye is your understanding. It's your spiritual eye. It's not any part of your body. You have two eyes that look at physical things, and you have another eye, which is the eye that sees spiritual things. And that's all it refers to. In the language of the Jewish people of that time, they had an idiom. It was Ein Tova. They had a word in Hebrew, Ein Tova. It meant the good eye. So in the Jewish culture, the eye was considered the lamp of the body, exactly what Jesus said. They already understood that part. They spoke of it that way. It was the source of a person's inner moral light. It wasn't the source of the physical world, the light of the physical world. It was a source of moral light. And it was a window through which their true character and the attitude toward wealth, money, material things, greed, selfishness, mundane things. It's where it was revealed. If your eye was thinking about those things, that's all you're going to get, pain and sorrow. So that was an idiom that the Jews had, and they knew what Jesus was talking about. The connection is given to us in Proverbs 22, verse 9. He who has a generous eye will be blessed, for he shares his food with the poor. Well, there is that word, good eye, or tov ain. The ain is the eye, and tov is good. It's the good eye. Now, in contrast to that, we also have the ain ra. Ain ra is the bad eye. It's associated with greed or a stingy person. So it wasn't a physical organ in your body, but it was the way that a person's inner disposition flowed outward. A person who had a good eye had compassion. Why? Is it only about compassion or generousness? No, it's about what is important. It's not about selfishness or material things. It's about truth, which is people need things, compassion, love. So if you see somebody who was in need, you're willing to help. That reflected that your heart was filled with deity's light. Remember, the Bible says that deity is light. And then another place it says deity is love. In another place it says he is spirit. If he is light, and he is spirit, and he is love, then love, spirit, and light are all three the very same thing. Mind or spirit, the kind of mind we need is love. And that love and that mind is light because it enlightens us so that we can see the truth and give generously and love others. So a person who has a good eye had compassion. He helped people. It didn't matter about material things. He had a proper perspective. He knew what was important. A person who had a bad eye was self-centered. He was blind, basically, spiritually blind. This is something that Jesus talked about all the time. The Pharisees were blind. Well, they had two eyes. They could see physical things, but they were blind spiritually. And they didn't know the meaning. They didn't use their key to unlock the esoteric truth, to get down the hall, to go through the gate, to find the truth, and then to enter into life. Life was what? Entering into with boldness, beyond the veil, beyond the flesh, not physically. We're not going to go live there, but we're going to appear there before his presence. Like you go before a judge. You ask for things, and he gives you a good verdict because you got into him, into his presence, and Jesus went in there with you, which is your higher conscious being, which is your advocate, you see. Now the devil tries to get in there too, but he's cast out. That's that liar. That's the delusion. He can't really get in there. He's trying to get in there to accuse you. He accuses you before my Father's face day and night. But that's because in your mind, you're letting him in there, but he really has no authority at all. So Jesus was using a well-known idiom in that Sermon on the Mount when he said, the eye that is single is generous and loving and kind and compassionate, but the eye that is evil is greedy, materialistic. So it was about one's attitude toward money and material things and this world. The confusion is that people believe in this world and they're bowing down to this deity who's blinding the mind of the unbeliever because you're in fear. What then is blinding your single eye or the inner eye, if you are going to think of it as the inner eye, because it is a spiritual understanding? What's blinding your spiritual love eye? The eye of generosity, the eye of knowledge. Well, it's your delusional mind, the outward carnal mind that's looking out through these two eyes and seeing all this evil in the world. And it's deceiving you. There is no evil in the world. You're creating it. That lower mind, that vengeance, that fear, that hate, that jealousy, he's the liar, the murderer from the beginning. And he's the deceiver, and you're believing your lying eyes. Don't believe your lying eyes, because they're only imaging what the lower conscious nature wants to image, fear. Raise your vibration and get your consciousness in the higher consciousness and see through your third eye. Yes, you have a third eye. And what is it? Well, there is an organ in the body called the pineal gland, and it is associated with that, and the thalamus gland. And the Egyptians knew all about this. But you're the being peering out. First, you peer out from the inner sanctuary through the veil into the thoughts that you project from your inner spiritual love. You're in the city in the inner sanctuary, peering out. And then beyond that is the walls of the beautiful heavenly Jerusalem. And the walls are the earthly paradise. And there's the tree of life and the garden and all the animals. And beyond that, the outer wall is the outer darkness, where the thieves and murderers and the liars are. And you don't want to go out there in the outer darkness. You want to be in the light, inside paradise and the grand city of the King, in the kingdom of Christ. Not into that delusion outside, the darkness. You're worshiping a deity of vengeance who is jealous, who is angry, who doesn't love you. You're following the devil, the liar. But what about this idea that the single eye is the inner eye or the third eye? Is it warranted? Is there any kind of way that this could have been referring to the third eye, pineal gland kind of idea? The light that enters into the body is your focus, whether it's on spiritual things or whether it's on material things. What is a spiritual thing? Love, compassion, goodness. Those are the truth. No fear. If you focus on that, if you have faith and nothing doubting, then all things are possible for you. But if you're focusing on selfishness, which is triggered by fear and basically a lie that you're not in charge, that you might die because the world is bad. The only reason the world could be bad is if your mind was bad. If your eye is single and you don't think about bad, you only think about good, then only good can be, because your mind is the ruler. So, yes, I believe that the pineal gland controls your vision, internal vision, your dream, your thought process is visualized in front of your forehead. And literally your eyeball is right in front of your forehead, and the light goes through your eyes and it reflects off of the thalamus gland. And the pineal and the pituitary are very much part of the mechanics of your physical body to receive and perceive your consciousness and your thoughts as they emanate from your being. So it is about the pineal gland. However, we don't teach people when we get them a car and we say, okay, this is the car. Now, what you're going to need is this element called gas. You're going to have to go and find some kind of gaseous substance that explodes and goes into your carburetor and it goes down through a tube. They don't need to know that. What they're needing to understand is that's a car. Here are the keys. You turn the wheel. When it runs out of gas, you go to the gas station. That's the basic idea here, is that this is a vehicle for you to go and run around here in the physical world and see everything and do everything you need to do. Your body is a vehicle. It's got all kind of a combustion engine and pineal glands and pituitary and secretions and oils. All of that's true. In fact, remember Jesus was preaching as John the Baptist was preaching at Bethany, or the house of On, or Heliopolis, or Aros Solomon, which is at Karnak, in down there in Egypt. They were teaching from the great temple, Isaiah 19:19, the temple of the Lord in the midst and the border thereof in Egypt. And these were the ancient mystical teachings, the mystic from the mysterion, or the mysteries that was in the Great Pyramid. And part of it, if you want to go really deep in a scientific way and understand all of it, your body is a temple. And within your body are these apertures like your eyeball. But we don't get salvation from the eyeball, nor do we get salvation from the pineal gland. We get salvation from knowing that we're the being that's invisible and spiritual behind the eyeball, the consciousness, and it's peering out through the eyeball, and it's using the aperture to see. But you also need to understand that you need to see spiritual things. You need to understand that you're in control of the thought process. So I'm not denying there isn't a pineal gland. This is all correct. The kingdom is within and without, above and below, as above, so below. So when Jesus said to the Pharisees, you have the key, but you do not go in, nor do you allow anyone else to go in, was he speaking of going within? The key, was it to go within? Or what did it mean? Where do we go in? If we got a key and we don't go in, where is it they weren't going in? Well, he was talking about the kingdom of deity. We want to go into the source or the place of authority where we get answers to our questions, into the presence of deity, as we've already said. The key of knowledge is understanding and interpreting the scriptures. It's the esoteric meaning. And so, yes, there is a place where we go in, but we have to define this not as some place that we go to live and be, and the physical is nothing, but it's a place that we go in our mind with boldness beyond the veil, beyond the flesh, to appear before his divine presence, the light. And when we get there with faith, we ask, and whatsoever we ask, we shall receive. You see? So it's a authority to open the law or the meaning or the esoteric meaning of the Bible. So Jesus was accusing them of taking the key away by replacing deity's truth with man-made traditions, legalistic burdens. Basically, they locked the door rather than opening it. They didn't teach spiritual truth. They didn't teach the true meaning. They taught a temple with gates and curtains and holy places as though that was the meaning. But that temple is not the meaning. It's the letter. And the letter or the words are trying to paint a picture or a parable or a diagram so that you can understand spiritual things. Where are we going in? Well, they did not go in. They didn't go into the presence of the divine power that rules over the kingdom. They weren't trying to go into the kingdom because the kingdom is everywhere. It didn't mean they didn't go into the kingdom. They were all standing in the kingdom. We're all standing in the kingdom. But they didn't go into the place that controlled the kingdom. They rejected the door. Jesus said he himself was the door. And if you didn't believe in him, the Messiah, now Christians say you got to believe in Jesus, confess his name, or you're not going to go in. Well, that's true, but it's far deeper than that. Jesus spoke as the Christ. He was the elder brother, the head of the body, a spiritual person who was operating as that higher conscious mind. He spoke from the higher place, from the Father, with authority. So if you didn't accept the Christ or that inner messenger that is your angel that appears before the Father's presence, that's your higher being. If you didn't receive that truth, that higher being, and what it spoke, which was told to us, which the Old Testament speaks of in parables, that we would accept the Christ. But they didn't understand what the Christ was. They thought it was going to be some guy. Christians do the same thing. They think it's some guy named Jesus. Well, Jesus is the Christ. He was the teacher. He was the one that attained unto that consciousness and spoke as that higher consciousness and truly was identifying as one who was in that higher mind. So what he spoke of himself because it was within him. But we also are one in Christ. So they didn't believe in the Messiah as a person, and that's not good. But if you believe in Messiah as the messenger, as the teacher, you'll also believe in his message. And he said that we would do greater works than him. He said that we are all one in Christ from the founding of the world. This is why the Apostle Paul says, Christ in you, the hope of glory. Not the Jesus that's in you. The Christ that Jesus identified with, his higher being, is also that same Christ being that's in you. So they were official teachers, but they were false teachers, and they didn't interpret the scriptures correctly, and they were leading them astray into the outer meaning that wasn't the meaning. If I draw a diagram and say this is the truth, I'm not saying that chalkboard's the truth, or those lines on the chalkboard are the truth. I'm saying that what that diagram represents is the truth. So, the key is faith and correct understanding of deity's word. The entrance is accepting that Christ being within yourself, accepting the message of Jesus that you should receive the knowledge of Christ. This means eternal life, taking in knowledge of you, the only true deity, and of the one whom you sent forth, Jesus Christ. We accept Jesus Christ, we follow Jesus Christ, and believe in Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ told us about the Christ, which we're all part of. And when we receive the message of Jesus, we know that we are the Christ, and we know that we are the controllers, and we know that we can enter into that higher place beyond the veil and receive all the answers to all of our prayers. So when Jesus said he was the way, he was speaking of the Christ, or the inner man, or the higher man, which is distinctive from the lower carnal, egotistical man. If the esoteric wisdom is within the letters, it points to Christ, the spiritual inner man, and higher consciousness, to go with boldness to his throne beyond the curtain within the sanctuary or the divine presence. So purity and a place of love and a singleness of heart is where we're trying to enter in to. In the esoteric and the mystical traditions, Jesus, the historical man, was the Christ, but they're missing this deeper part of what Jesus really was. As a man, he was a spiritual man, and we're all spiritual people. and not just this flesh. So, in the esoteric understanding, when Jesus said, I am the way, he was referring to the I am consciousness, the spiritual essence that every person has. It's the lower versus the higher. It's the way which is transcending the lower carnal ego, the fears, the desires, selfishness. Get rid of it. We have to align with the higher Christ self. You see, it's talking about a state of being, friends. It's not just some human that we worship, or even a bearded man somewhere called deity in the sky that we worship. It's the divine that we worship within us, that has all authority and all power in heaven and upon earth. So, in the Bible, we have this imagery. It's there in the Torah, and the key is to understand what the Torah is speaking of. And it's beyond the curtain. Hebrews 10 talks about going beyond the curtain. It's the veil. The curtain is the veil. And it says right there, it's the flesh. So, the inner sanctuary is where we got to go. We've got to pass through the veil, which is entering a state of deep or higher awareness. Now, it's not by closing off your thoughts in meditation and trying to concentrate on the center of your forehead and going That's not doing it. It's something far easier than that, and yet much more difficult. In other words, it's way more difficult to sit in a corner and reach enlightenment or nirvana. That might take you about 1 trillion years, because that's how long it's going to take all of us. We get there through experience, through knowing, gnosis. However, it's a lot easier than doing that, in the sense that what we're trying to reach is generosity, love, kindness. But you can't get to the place where you're giving and loving and encouraging if you have fear. And fear comes from the flesh, the illusion that the flesh is the master, that things happen to you and you're not making them happen yourself. So that's why we got to have this single eye, the state of non-duality. We don't want to be double-minded or have duplicity. The mainstream view that Christians have is that Jesus is a unique historical mediator whose literal death on that cross removed the barrier of sin between deity and humanity. Well, it did so in a legal way. However, we were never under that legal contract, because we have to understand that legal contract, just like that temple, was an illustration that when we came into the world, we're under this material law of vengeance and hate, because we are hating and we are vengeful, because we are in a state of ignorance. As long as we're no longer ignorant, we're no longer under this darkness. So certainly don't take this the wrong way. Jesus came and legally redeemed us from the law. There are lots of legal things that was going on there. But those legal things aren't the heart of the matter. The heart of the matter is spiritual things. The esoteric is that Jesus is the blueprint. He's the elder brother, and he's the one who demonstrated how we can go and awaken that inner Christ within us, which is a Christ consciousness, to find the divine being within us. So let's get this straight. Was Jesus referring to going within the veil, beyond the flesh, or, as the rabbis said, receiving a key to unlock Scripture and going within the letter of the law and getting the true meaning? Is that all it was talking about? Or was he really talking about going within? In some way then, is Bill Donahue correct? We've got to go within. Well, as we've said, yes. But that's not where we go to live. We don't disregard the kingdom or the manifestation, because all these other things will be added to us. We don't care that the outer cup is dirty. It's not that we don't care if the outer part of the cup is dirty. Who wants to drink out of a cup if it's dirty all over the outside, right? When you're talking about a cup, you wouldn't drink out of it if it was dirty. But what we're talking about is the true vehicle or envelope of spirit. The envelope of spirit is your thoughts. And when you understand that your thinking is making the thoughts, then we have to cleanse the inside, and the outside will be cleansed already. So we're not going to live in the kingdom, which is somewhere within us. We're going to live in the kingdom, which is in this physical world. It's not a permanent thing that we go within. It's a path. It's really just us going within to make our petition in the presence of the divine. So that's also a parable, because we're not going to go anywhere. It just means that our mind has to go into the places of peace and love. And it cannot go there if we believe that the world is evil. And this is why we're going to have to do a third video in this series to explain that it literally means not just sitting in a corner or going to church on Sunday, but it means that we have to literally get out of the physical world, because the delusion is keeping us down. We've got to get out of the delusion. We've got to stop going through the motions of pretending that this world is some courtroom with some guy in a black robe, that we can condemn others, that somehow life is about what you own, or luxuries, or pleasures. That's not what life is about. That may be something that we want. We want good things. We want nice things. But we got to understand that to get those things, we have to be pure in heart. That's what this means. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there, guys, because tomorrow we're going to get into the practical application of this. We're going to learn how to do this, all of us. So watch these videos, this series, this one and the next one. Make sure that you share this with everybody and let everybody know, because this is going to be the most amazing series that we've ever done, because we're going to literally get to the bottom of how to bring the kingdom down to earth. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And actually start doing what the Lord told us to do, and live the way he told us to live. And it's going to be glorious. Guys, I guarantee it. Anyway, I'm going to let you guys go and bid you a adieu. Hope you have a wonderful evening. You know the Lord loves you all. His grace and his peace will be with you. Have a good one.